Hello, everyone, and welcome to The Rundown, where we talk about 2A news and conservative views. I will be your host today, Craig DeLuz, coming at you from the West Coast, the left coast, behind the Iron Curtain, otherwise known as California. But as we all know, I do not do this program by myself.
That's right. My name is Mike Piwowarski, coming to you live from the East Coast, the coast with the most, from your co-host with the most here on The Rundown, 2A Views, conservative news. Welcome to Monday morning. Monday afternoon, sorry.
Yeah. Right, exactly. Monday morning in election season. That's right. We no longer have election day. We have election season. And I'm starting to get the impression, Mike, that election season lasts until Democrats have enough votes to say they won.
Listen, I don't want to say erection flawed, but erection flawed.
Maybe we need, we need to get like an ED sponsor. Are you concerned about erection flawed?
There you go. We got erection flawed right here.
Hey, so anyway, any of y'all out there, you ED companies, you guys got money, give us a holla. Look, we'll let you be a sponsor.
That's it. Yeah. Come at us, bro.
Anyway, folks, before we get into it, let's go ahead and give a shout out to our sponsors.
Let's do it. Let's talk about our good friends over at Hitman Industries. That's hitmanindustries.net. Hitmanindustries.net. If you got an AR in the past 5 years, you probably already got one of their barrels and you don't even know it. Well, now you can get a barrel all your own for your next build or upgrade your current rifle. That's hitmanindustries.net. Let's do the California Republican Assembly. We know what kind of work they did last week, seeing everything there, their results out there in California, strong showing for those that actually voted. As opposed to those that say they got voted for. And then, of course, our good friends, if you want some combat gear, some web gear, go to uscombatgear.com. And the one we sneaked you on Friday, if you want the best everyday carry concealed holster out there, you need to go to Hawg Holsters, HAWG holsters.com, and use the code The Rundown, all one word, all caps, The Rundown, and you're going to get yourself a nice little discount there on some of the best products available.
Exactly, folks. These are our sponsors. These are the folks who bring us to you. They do so because they want us to bring you to them. So do us a favor. The links to all of their websites are in the description to this program. So all you got to do is click on it, go there, see what you like. And I say what you like because I guarantee you're going to see something you like. And kick them down some cash, whether it's becoming a member, whether it's buying a product. Remember, especially with Hawg Holsters, use the code The Rundown, all caps, no spaces. That way you can let them know that it was the guys over at The Rundown that sent you.
That's right. Show them what you like, what you really, really like.
There you go. And by the way, please remember, like, share, subscribe. Let your friends know that this is the program to be watching to get your news about gun stuff and about conservative news and to have a good time. But let them know they can listen or they can just watch, and all the various different ways are all right there in the description to the video. All right, let's get into the news today. The race for the House. That's right. Unfortunately, the race for the Senate has been called, as it does appear that the Democrats are actually going to win in Nevada. So it looks like they'll have the 50 votes plus the vice president. So it looks like they'll still maintain control of the Senate. But once again, still keep in mind, we still have a Senate runoff in Georgia. That is going to be vitally important because that's for a 6-year term. And it's very, very important that we get someone who's pro Second Amendment, who's conservative, pro-life in that seat. And that would be none other than Herschel Walker. So there's still going to be a runoff there. But that's also going to play a role, once again, after 2024, when I believe our numbers will grow again. Anyway, that having been said, the race for the House, which many thought would be done by now, well, it's still up for grabs, right? Now, the number of seats that are going to need, now keep in mind that in order to win the House, Republicans or Democrats, either one, in order to have control, are going to need 218 seats in order to have a majority. And based on the vote count thus far, Republicans have about 212. Democrats have about 203. And it's projected the Republicans right now are in position to win at least 10 of the 19 seats that are still up for grabs. So that means that we're looking at having a slim 4-vote majority, which is a turnaround of about 8. Because I think before we were 4 or 5, we were 4 down. Then this is going to put us 4 up. But Mike, even though we don't win the Senate, winning the House is still a very important victory.
Yeah, Craig, and I don't buy it for either one. I'm sorry, throw me off the air. This lengthening process where they continue to do and continue to have all these flauds. I'm sorry, it's criminal. It's dishonest, and might have been willing to stand for it a couple of years ago. Not anymore. I'm done. Listen, we did everything we could in the states to correct those problems. Florida being an example of that. Done. Not letting it rest either. Not letting it rest. This is more, corruption is what you got here.
Well, and this is one of the things that I think many, many people have said in particular about delaying or think about it. For decades, we were able to go to the polls, vote, and we knew who our elected representatives were that night. It's now almost a week later, and we still don't know in many, many cases. In places like California right now, right now in California, and we'll get into this real close in just a second, but right now, control of the House is still in line, is still up for grabs. And we're waiting on the outcome of elections in California, where, by the way, we know that they sent out ballots to people who should not be voting. People who are non-citizens who should not be voting. We know they sent out multiple ballots to people who, from different counties. In one instance, we actually had a person receive 3 different ballots from 2 different counties, and that was in the news. So don't. If those of you on YouTube, don't get mad at us. But that is an actual news story that we reported on. We've also got instances, and matter of fact, I'll just move on to the next story where we talk about California's crazy elections. So in one particular case, you have a woman here who found, and this is reported, NBC Bay Area. So these are not conservatives. A woman in Santa Cruz found election ballots in a ravine in the Santa Cruz Mountains. In other words, these ballots were just thrown away. They were just sitting there. They were just sitting there in a ravine somewhere along with a bunch of mail. And you wonder, once again, I don't know that if there are enough instances of this to change the outcome of elections, but when you see this much stuff happening, this sort of stuff happening, and you see it being reported on during a week in which ballots are still being counted, one has to raise questions. You cannot say that there is not a problem. There's a reason why we need these elections to be decided in a relatively short period of time, because this is the sort of stuff that happens.
Craig, is it enough to have made a difference? I'll give you this fact. How about only 10% of criminals are ever identified or caught? How about that? What's that tell you about those numbers going on there? This is I have no confidence at all that the GOP wins the House. I think at this point they're running full steam ahead with their operation, and you're going to see it to continue to turn blue. No doubt in my mind. They've already stolen governor's races, Senate races, president race. What's the House now? They're going to continue to do this. Look at the states that have fixed the problems and see what the vote tallies are.
Well, and I think you're going to have more and more. You're going to have people who are going to call into question once again the validity of, or just how these elections are being run. There's no way you cannot say that this has been an epic failure. Here we are, the technology hub of the country, if not the world, and we can't seem to count ballots within a reasonable amount of time. It creates the opportunity for there to be doubt.
I'm in the 3rd most popular state in the union, Craig, and we got it right on the first night because our governor came in and he put
Right.
criminals in jail and threw the corrupt out of office.
Oh, and by the way, folks, all Florida really did was take it back to how the election was before COVID. That's it. He didn't add anything special or new. He just took the elections back to where they were before COVID. By the way, how they were before COVID in most states. In most states, you weren't mailing ballots to everybody. There was no reason. There was absolutely positively no reason we should be mailing ballots to everybody, especially when we don't do hardly anything to make sure that the voter rolls are accurate, right? Anyway.
And we won't, because we'll continue to allow that, because guess what? One half will be dishonest and collect those and fill them out and send them back, where the other wants to abide by the honesty of the election.
Right. Now, Mike, one of the other things that we had happen in California elections is that we had a county, San Bernardino County, actually voted to secede from California and actually create their own state known as the Empire State. Now, San Bernardino is part of an area, San Bernardino, Riverside County, and I think a couple other, but it's kind of it's near LA. It's like next to LA. It's like, but it's like to the east. So it's called the Inland Empire. And so they want to change it. And they want to create a place called the Empire State. And, but that's how many people feel in California is, quite frankly, there are many of us who would just love to leave the state of California to the left-wing liberals in Los Angeles, San Diego, and the San Francisco Bay Area.
Yeah, let's do it. Although Empire State's taken. I don't know if the people in California know that. That's New York's.
Yeah, but that's their nickname. It's not the official name. They want to make it the official name of their state.
I mean, you might as well name your new state California then. I mean, why take a name that's already taken by somebody that sucks?
Because it's not an official name. Their official name is New York.
Okay, go with that. That'll work.
I don't care. You can call it Jefferson. You can call it, getting the heck out of California. I don't care.
That'll work. I'm good with that.
I'm getting out of Cali. Cali. Yeah. I'm getting out of Cali.
Yeah.
I think so.
There's your new state name, Cali. Call it Cali. Yeah.
There you go. Oh, me oh my, me oh my. All right. Now, Mike, this next story is one that you shared. So I wanted you to go ahead and introduce this next story to the folks.
Well, I didn't read it or anything. I just, saw it and sent it to you.
I'm sure you read it because it speaks to a conspiracy theory that you have been pushing.
I may have, Craig, right? I'm just saying that I'm just saying that this has kind of been clear for those of us that have been paying attention. So the plan under Joe Biden has been to get somebody, or not under Joe Biden, under the Joe Biden administration, because we know that's different than Joe Biden, right? Because we know who we have actually running the government, not Grandpa Tapioca Pudding there. So Uncle Touchy Feely Hands, right? They're going to get whatever. They're going to find some dirt, something on old Kamala there. They're going to get her to resign from office. They will bring in a new person underneath the as the vice president, and then that president will be the one. That vice president will be the one that one of two things happens. Either they get Biden to resign for medical reasons, but I think they'll avoid that as long as they can because they like having their puppet do whatever they want him to do. Or in the event he does get removed from office for medical reasons, they'll have a new vice president to move up. The question has been, who is this vice president that they could pick? Who is this person they could have picked to put under him? And according to folks over at the Hill, it's Gavin Mussolini.
Yeah. So this is an op-ed. It's a piece put out there by Douglas McKinnon, who's an opinion contributor over there. So the only issue that I have with it is if this is their plan, Mike, it is based on very poor analysis, and I'll tell you why. If you look at Republican, if you look at the California ballot and you look at how they voted, pretty much almost every single race had the exact same number of votes or percentages of votes all the way down the line. It was pretty much about 57%. Which basically meant that Republicans, based on their registration, way overperformed, almost doubled their numbers. But it also showed you that people pretty much just voted a party ticket, and that overwhelmingly, overwhelmingly declined the states and independents went for the Republican, even though they had no idea who Brian Dahle, the candidate for governor, was. They had no idea who he was because he had hardly any money. So they didn't even know who he was. They just voted the generic ticket. Now, once people actually get to know Gavin Newsom, they really start to not like him. So I think that's, they think that the fact that he won with ease, they ignore the fact that it was in California. If he was talking, I don't know, Colorado's not as green as California, but if it were like Colorado, or if it were Texas, which is actually a reddish state, if it were a state that were a little more split, then I think you may have a point. But the fact that he won in blue, we're talking true blue, California, it's not that impressive.
Yeah, Colorado, by the way, they just legalized psychedelic mushrooms for use now. So that great place, great way to go, guys.
Okay, so maybe they're not. They're not even purple. They're tie dye.
Yeah, it's all well. They have purple, but it's purple in the sky with diamonds, right?
Yep, that is likely the truth. But anyway, that's the new plan, or that's the plan as is being promoted. You know, I honestly do not see, based on the level and the speed at which the president is declining, I do not see him being able to maintain office. But at the same time, or for the next 2 years, but at the same time, I just don't see Democrats being willing to hand it over to Kamala Harris. I just don't.
No, it's not going. That's not going to happen. Yeah. Listen,
Yeah.
If they thought that was going to happen, that would have happened already. All right. And that if she was capable, the handlers already would have done that. Again, now they might be holding off on that because they like having Puppet Boy there in office, you know, and she might actually get up there and do her. Okay, all right, you know, her little condescending head shake that she does.
We must do what we have already been doing, which is doing what we've been doing.
Yeah, yeah. No, Joe. I talk now. It's
right.
my turn.
Yo, girl.
Yep. Yep.
Alec Baldwin is back in the news, Mike. Can you believe this? Not only is he back in the news, so he's filing a lawsuit, right? And in this lawsuit, he's basically saying, yeah, wasn't me. Not my fault. I was not responsible. Now, mind you, in this particular instance, now this is Alec Baldwin, who on the set of Rust fired his what he thought was an unloaded or loaded with blanks firearm, wound up killing a cinematographer, and the bullet went through that individual and struck the director. Now, mind you, it's already been determined he had the gun. It's already been determined that he had his finger on the trigger, that there was no other way that firearm could have fired except that he had his finger on the trigger. It's already been determined that there was safety training where they talked about stuff like that, like not pointing the gun at people, like not putting your finger on the trigger unless you are going to shoot, unless you are pointing it to shoot at something or someone. And that he skipped that training. Yet and still, somehow, some way, this is not Alex Baldwin's fault. Isn't that the way liberals usually work?
It's not his fault, Craig. It's not his fault. That gun just went off. It's not his fault. How idiotic does that sound? How childish? It's not my fault. The gun just went off. The gun just went off. Anywhere else in the world, you're going to jail for that. You're going to jail. Or put to death, right? Depending if we go in the world, but anywhere else in the country, it's not my fault. The gun just went off. You're going to jail. But here we go. Here we have again privilege. We have entertainment privilege, California privilege, or Hollywood privilege, excuse me. That just says not my fault. And everybody, you know what the left is doing? Oh, it's okay, Alec. We didn't blame you anyway.
Right. It's that gun culture, which, by the way, he was promoting. Which a lot of Hollywood lefties do. I don't know if you saw, there was a couple of different articles over this last weekend about anti-gun liberals who've made their bones in Hollywood, who make movies pretending to be like war heroes, right? Like they're pretending to be brave soldiers, and yet they're all They're all anti-gun lefties.
Yep. Yeah. It happens all the time. We see them. They're out there. Just don't do what I do. Just do what I say. Oh, and by the way, or this the other comment is, well, that's movies and people know the difference. Oh, okay, yeah, because nobody would ever admire that work that you did, right? And trying to emulate that.
Right, right. So, yeah, Alec Baldwin, your lawsuit is going to fail miserably. And once again, I'm not saying he's the only one at fault, because once again, there's a whole process on a movie set to make sure that thing doesn't happen. But everyone along the process has a responsibility to do their part, and his was go to the training, follow the training. Don't put your booger picker on the bang stick. And don't point it at nobody.
And I'll disagree with you there, because if you look at the 5 rules of gun safety, we don't even have to go to the 5 rules of gun safety. You can go to common sense. You don't pick up something deadly, potentially deadly, might be deadly, and pull the trigger pointing it at somebody without checking it first. You're to blame, Mr. Baldwin. You're to blame.
Yeah. Well, there you go. And he's spent enough time on sets with firearms to know better.
Yeah.
He ain't no rookie.
Look at the rules of gun safety. The last one is not, but it's okay if you didn't do it and somebody dies.
Right. Well, and here's the thing. If he had gone through the training, even despite all the experience he already had, if he had gone through the training, he would have heard that one more time and perhaps followed the rules.
Well,
anyway.
Listen, I'm not a big fan of his, although I do like Hunt for Red October, right? But yeah. I think I mentioned to you this before. Listen, he looks so different because that was so long ago back then. It's like I'm not even watching him. It's like I'm watching one of the other Baldwin brothers. But if you remember in that movie, he dropped his gun in there too. Remember? He was crawling along and dropped his gun.
He did. But at least he didn't shoot anybody.
Or any nuclear missiles.
Any nuclear missiles. Yeah. All right, moving right along. Let's get on to our parting shots. And since it's still election season, I think election memes are still appropriate. This first one actually just kind of shows you the reason why we ought to be concerned about elections by mail. And this one, I do not know if this is an actual quote of his. But if someone in government were to say it, my guess it would be Rand Paul. It says your government sent 1.1 million dead people stimulus checks. Wonder how many of these folks also voted absentee. Good stuff. Good stuff. And then we've got this one, and this one is from Mike, and it really kind of speaks to the importance of making sure that your elections are safe and fair, are open and fair. You want to go ahead and read this one, Mike, and describe this one for the folks who are listening?
Sure. It's got a picture in the center of Charlie Crist at 40% and Ron DeSantis at 60%, and there's over almost 8 million votes in. Okay, and it says Florida banned mass mail-in ballots, banned ballot harvesting, requires voter ID, and Governor DeSantis created an election police force. 60-40, DeSantis to Crist. Are you paying attention yet?
So there's a couple of things that I think this speaks to. Number one, they knew who won the election on election night, right? Look at that. 99% reporting. That was on election night. They knew already. Now, notice it does not say bans mail-in ballot. It says bans mail-in ballot, mass mail-in ballots. Meaning, look, if you can't vote the day of the election or you're out of town or something like that, you can still cast your vote. You're not being kept from voting. But guess what? If you can vote on election day, then you get your butt to the polls. That's your job, right? It's not just your right, but it's your responsibility to make sure that you don't violate don't make sure you don't, that the right to vote isn't abused. We're going to make sure that we hold you accountable. And when you do that, Republicans tend to win. And the reason why they tend to win is because responsible people, they can't cheat if it ain't close. Just saying. Speaking of also not being able, I'm sorry, go ahead.
And a 20% spread is not close.
No, that is definitely not close, in case you were wondering. All right, and finally, this one now, it does need to be, there is a slight check that needs to take place. So this is one of Beto O'Rourke. It says Beto spent $164 million to lose back-to-back elections. He spent $79 million to try and unseat Ted Cruz as senator. He spent $17 million, what is that, in this presidential election? And then 68 million was spent in this most recent gubernatorial election. And yet and still, he got his ass handed to him all three times. 0-3, 0-3. Sit down, Beto. Go home. What was the one correction, Mike?
Siéntate, por favor.
Right. Yeah. Now, Mike did have one correction, though, and it was he's saying he's actually 1-4.
Yeah, listen, I love memes, right? But I like accurate memes. It says 0-3 in national elections. He's actually the three that you just mentioned there. Only 2 were national elections,
right?
And in 4, he's 1-4 because he was a congressman the first time. So
right. Yeah, that dude.
But that's my math brain. That's my math brain won't allow that. Sorry.
Time for dude to go. Yep. Talking about going, Mike, it's about that time. Please give a quick shout out to our sponsors.
Yeah, let's say hello to our good friends over at Hitman Industries. If you got yourself an AR and want a new barrel for it, rifle pistol calibers available, rifle pistol lengths available. Hitmanindustries.net. Hitmanindustries.net. California Republican Assembly. Make sure you reach out to the California Republican Assembly. Say hey to them. Say, hey, thanks for the good job. How can I help you on the next round? USCombatGear.com. USCombatGear.com. Get yourself all your tactical and web gear needs. And finally, get out your pens. Get out your paper. And here you go. Hog Holsters. HAWGholsters.com. Hog. HAWGholsters.com. That's Hog. Helping America wear guns. Helping America wear guns. Go there. Take a look at their stuff. Get you a little discount by putting in the rundown. All caps, no spaces. All caps, no spaces. The rundown. You get yourself some of the finest, some veteran-owned and operated inside concealed weapon holsters. This is the guy. Go see Hog Holsters and use the code The Rundown.
The Rundown. Folks, once again, please take a moment, visit our sponsors whose links are in the description of this program, and make sure to tell them that the guys over at The Rundown sent you. With that, we're going to call it a day, and we will be back tomorrow on Taco Tuesday. Folks, have fun. We'll see you then.